So obviously there is still this ongoing conversation about Justin Bieber, his career trajectory, what's going on with him behind the scenes such that he appears to be losing it in the public eye. And I want to direct our attention to a girl who was once predicted to be the female Justin Bieber. She was actually discovered by Justin Bieber himself when he was a teenager. He reposted one of her song covers from YouTube and directed the attention of his manager, Scooter Braun, over to her. And that is how her career in music began 13 years ago. Her name is Madison Beer. I believe we have talked about her on the show before, but she is definitively a mid-tier pop star. She is not a globally known household name. And comparing her to a peer like Sabrina Carpenter, her career is just not taken off in the same way.
And this article is basically like, let's discuss why you're not as popular as the other people you grew up with.
Yeah, literally, there is an ongoing discourse about why Madison Beer is a flop and like why is her career such a failure when she has everything going for her, including, of course, being gorgeous and having a good voice and all the backing of the industry.
Backhand full of knuckles with that compliment.
Yeah. So she sat down for this interview with Cosmopolitan recently because she is about to release a new album and she's doing promotion for it. But the focal point of the interview wasn't really her album. It was about all of the terrible experiences that she's had in the industry thus far, starting out at 12 years old. And also asking the obvious question, the elephant in the room, why aren't you famous when you had all of these advantages, especially being discovered so young by Scooter Braun, who is a star maker. But I think that this points to a similar dispute behind the scenes that she probably had with Scooter Braun. She is still friends with Justin Bieber and Haley, his wife, to this day, and they still talk. And I believe that she's in a similar position where she's not able to speak out against Scooter Braun. As a lot of people speculate, Justin Bieber is in the same position. But they say in this article, in 2012, Justin Bieber shared 13-year-old Madison's YouTube cover of Etta James at Last, and his then manager, Scooter Braun, then signed her. And what follows is the leaking of nude photos taken when Madison was 15, relentless cyberbullying, sexual assault, diagnoses of borderline personality disorder, OCD, and depression. Madison says she was forced to make music she didn't believe in, and she also was dropped from her label and split from Scooter Braun later on. She basically had a moment in her career where she was dropped by her entire team at the age of 16 out of nowhere. And the reason for that isn't just because she wasn't hitting the same success they expected her to. There was more to it than that. And it's because there are a lot of creeps in the music industry, and they were creepy toward her.
She avoided the couch?
I hope so, but you never know.
Good for you.
Can I aside for a second? Phil, what do you think about the idea when she says she was forced to make music she doesn't believe in?
I mean, I don't know. I genuinely don't know, like, if she just, if her management or her label were like, these are the songs you're going to do. I mean, that's totally possible, but I feel like the artist always has some kind of input, you know, again, and you know, I don't come from the pop world. I come from a world where, you know, we wrote all of our own stuff for like the vast majority of our career. There were times where we worked with different producers on some stuff, but we always had the final say. And I guess maybe in the pop world you don't.
Seems like it would be more rigid, and then they would be expected to follow the brand that they want rather than the individuality that comes from something like what you were doing.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be, yeah.
Well, she was also a child, so
Yeah.
she didn't even have that much self-determination in the first place.
Yep.
But they ask about the early years of her career and what happened when you parted ways with your first record label and manager, Scooter Braun. She said, the same day my manager dropped me, my lawyer dropped me, and my label dropped me. Everything in my life went away within 12 hours.
She got like 3 text messages in a row that all said, like, is that what happened?
I was 16 and my label was like, good luck.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you guys just stole years of my childhood that I'll never get back.
That I do not agree.
Yeah,
She says, I can't go to college because I've been homeschooled. I have a high school degree and nothing else because of my career.
Why couldn't you go to
Why
college?
can't you go to
because
college?
were homeschooled?
Believe it or not, everybody else that goes to college
Yeah.
also usually only has a high school diploma
She's
when they go
throwing
to
a
college.
little bit of a pity party, but this part was the truly disturbing part. They ask, were you given a reason for all of this? And she said, I hadn't been successful enough. There was a conversation around me when I was 14, people being like, quote, she's too sexy and we can't sell the sex because she's so young, so we have to wait.
Did read that.
This was a real conversation,
Yeah.
grown men talking about how I was too sexy. I was 14.
Well, I mean, look,
Yikes.
was
Big
she,
yikes, as the kids would say.
But the question, so who was the person that was modeling her image? Was she doing it herself? Because if she was doing it herself, there should have been someone that stepped in and said, hey, you're dressing too much like an adult. You're behaving too much like an adult. You're not old enough to do that. You should tone this stuff down because it isn't acceptable. Now, granted, dude saying she's too sexy, like that sounds like someone saying, hey, you're pushing. I don't know how they delivered it, and I don't know the context, but people that are automatically saying, oh, that's gross. It's like, well, maybe they're saying, hey, whatever she's doing is unacceptable for her age.
But to me, it sounds like from the way she put it, they wanted to sell her as a sex symbol, but they saw it as an inconvenience that she was a child.
Well, I mean,
that was just
if that's the case, then that's
a hindrance to making more money off of her is that she was too young to sell as a sex symbol.
You know what it reminds me of is like last year when we covered like Lil Tay making a new song, and I'm like, why is she dressed like that? She's like 14.
Yeah, that was weird.
Isn't that the girl that was just throwing around the N-word all over the place?
When she was like 9 years old,
Yeah.
and then people said her older brother was the one masterminding all of it and giving her lines to say when she didn't understand what was going on.
Plain awful.
Super weird. So to me, and my biases against the type of people who are executives in the music industry, the entertainment industry in general, I assume the worst, which is that they were sexualizing her and they wanted to take it further, but saw her age as an obstacle to doing that in just terms of making money off of her.
In sleazy industry terms, they're like, could you come back in like 2 years
Yeah.
when we can officially manipulate you? And
That's
and
gross. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then it is.
But her
gross.
parents also, you're right, should have stepped in at that point.
If you're a child performer, you need to have people that are your advocate, and that you can actually trust. Even like whether it be a parent, a manager, or whatever, someone has to step in and say, "Hey, the stuff you're doing is inappropriate for your age."
Yeah.
Like, and to be flat out honest with you, you can be like, "Look, you got 4 years, and you can do all the stuff like this that you want, but right now you can't."
Well, some of the time, maybe most of the time, I feel like it's kind of out of your hands because when you look back at all of these moments from Justin Bieber's career as a young teenager in the industry, he was sexualized against his will, and he openly said that it made him uncomfortable. He was constantly sexualized by adults around him, both men and women. He was asked about his sex life. I don't know, like if at that point he even had one.
Like on the interview circuits when he was very young.
And then openly like groped and kissed on stage by Jenny McCarthy at an award show. And you look back at all of these clips, it makes perfect sense why he feels so strongly about protecting younger artists like Billie Eilish, who are at a similar level of fame.
There's no boundary with the adults in Hollywood, so it's not hard to imagine that they wouldn't extend those same boundaries to kids, even though to us it seems like completely natural
obvious
to
that
put
they don't do
put
that,
boundaries into place. But it's like, how many times do you see an interview with some old ass hag celebrity and they will like, this is what their life is like in the bedroom? It's like, nobody wants to know about that.
We should all know less about each other.
I want to know less about what you're doing in the bedroom, dude.
Right. Yeah. And then the only other statement I could find from Madison Beer talking about her time working under Scooter Braun's management was her saying her years with Scooter Braun were of the, quote, "Oh, you don't have a say, you don't know what you're talking about, little girl" variety. And then a couple of years ago in 2023, she wrote this song, released this song on her album, called King of Everything that everyone speculated was a diss about Scooter Braun, but she never spoke out and said that that's who it was about. It was just heavily implied, and even Hailey Bieber openly implied that it was about Scooter Braun, which also leads me to believe that's more evidence that Justin Bieber has a private dispute with him behind the scenes. And I'm sure Justin Bieber feels partially responsible for basically putting on Madison Beer at the time.
I mean, it's the same
when
thing
she
that
was
happened,
like literally 13.
It's the same thing that happened when he talked about wanting to protect Billie Eilish, right?
Yes.
I mean, he would feel that for all the music industry has given him, attempting to bring anyone into that industry could be to their own detriment to an extreme extent.
And I want to show this reel that I recently saw from a small artist who allegedly recorded a phone call with a music executive. Now, I think it's ridiculous to frame it as women in the music industry go through this because of everything I just said about Justin Bieber. But she's basically recording what sounds like a phone call with a music executive who's trying to force her to sexualize her image.
I mean, it says literally #feminism.
Right.
So we'll take it with a grain of salt.
No one at the level you're trying to get to is going to care about these little projects you're making. The fact that you have big and can play a guitar, that's pretty important. Stop everything. Go in the studio with some songwriters who will write you a hit. You don't need to write on the record. You don't need to produce on it. Just let them do their thing and let go of all this other creative vision stuff that's wasting our time. No.
Like, I kind of respect the honesty, but it's also
It's like that.
sad.
There was like this storyline in the show Roswell where the one girl goes and like wants to become a musician, and she gets like a record deal and is shocked to find out that they don't want her to perform the music that she wants to play. They want her to do pop music. She's like, but I want to play the guitar. They're like, yeah, well, that's not really what we do here.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why Taylor Swift has had such a successful career is because she was willing to kind of morph into what the music industry needed at the time. That's how she evolved so seamlessly from being a country artist into a mainstream pop artist.
Do you think that she didn't want to do that?
I think she's okay with kind of being brand friendly, and a lot of artists see that as an affront to their creative vision, as they were putting it in that clip. Who knows if that was even a real phone call? Or if it was just an attention
Something about
grab.
it feels very created to me.
Felt a little bit fake, but the point stands. And I wonder if Madison Beer, along with a lot of other artists who are managed by Scooter Braun, are going to speak out in more detail about their experiences with him, because they're trying to make him out to be a supervillain.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.